to be talking about psychedelics, psilocybin mushrooms, and our
Just
experience
mushroom?
growing them. What's that? Just mushrooms?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you can talk about other psychedelics
I just
and
mentioned.
experience about just experiences in general on psychedelics. So, yeah, like I said, this is Tom Swings. For those of you who have been listening to my podcast, shout out to you for this past year and like year and a half, I think. You guys may know that Tom has been on my podcast many times. And our topics are the best. But yeah, what have you been up to lately? I see that you've been creating music again.
Yeah, just learning how to make beats, writing poems,
Ooh.
and yeah, just uh, that's really it. Just and getting into like a little flow state of that, and healthy habits, maintaining like healthy habits, balance. It's easy for me sometimes to lose balance, so been working on that. How about
Mm-hmm.
yourself?
Yeah. No, no, this is not about me. No, I could say the same. Well, I haven't been creating music, but I have been creating stuff and being in flow. But anyways, a few months ago, you and I, were called to work with magic mushrooms. It was actually a year ago. Do you remember that? It was a year ago because we were in
Started
Atlanta.
in like, I mean, the idea started around this
November.
time, but I don't think we did anything till December.
You're right.
Hmm.
But it was like winter time. But once upon a time, we were at a bar and I don't remember who it was, but we were like, oh, we should grow mushrooms. And we were pretty tipsy, but then we just ran with the idea. It was like a year ago exactly. And yeah, then we decided to learn about more about psychedelics, more than we had already experienced, learn about them, learn about growing them, working with them. And yeah, that's how our journey started with growing them. And I was saying that I feel like people who work closely with magic mushrooms specifically is because they have a calling to. Like, I truly feel like it is a calling to work with them because you have to be passionate about them. And I also feel like individuals who do so have to have experience taking them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely some. Yeah, I can't imagine. Imagine
No.
working with them and not doing the sheesh.
Yeah, but I mean, it's interesting because it's like, imagine someone growing a plant. Okay, because I work with plants and herbs. I'm just like, imagine someone growing an herb they've never taken, kind of thing.
Yeah,
It's interesting,
yeah.
but no,
I mean, it's just like this is a whole different level, though. That's all.
yeah, no, for sure. Because it wouldn't make any sense if you've never taken them, because otherwise you don't know what you're supplying people. Then
Yeah,
there
and
would be really
you don't
no
know.
purpose as to why you're growing them, because I feel like if you do, you understand their power and how they can help other people.
Yeah, you can't. I find it like hard to. Someone could probably try to go based off science, but it's like
Yeah, no.
your experience is so much more powerful. Like it's not so much about what I read scientifically. Like my experiences influenced me way more than anything I've ever read.
That's why I feel like people who hate on psychedelics, there's people who just absolutely hate it or are really triggered by it is because they've never taken it. I swear. Or if they have, they've never actually, the psychedelics, psilocybin magic did not actually take them on a journey. Do you know
Or
what I mean?
maybe it's just their. We spoke a little bit about this yesterday. Maybe it's just a fear, like they're scared of what. will happen.
Yeah, for sure. But you get what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's a lot of people who don't agree with psychedelics or the
Yeah.
legalization of it and all that, because I'm just like, yo, you've never taken them. But I also understand there's people who have, and maybe they had a crazy ego death experience. So then they understand the other side of them as to why they shouldn't be legal to everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's whew, like I just think about the most people that I know that aren't really for it is really just them having a not really such an open mind in general, just to like a lot of things in life, you know. But
Yeah.
I do, yeah, you know, like I said, I do believe like your experience is worth so much. And if someone ever had like a ego death that like made them not want to do it again,
Hmm.
I would like to talk to that person. Like, I wonder what, like, is it because they're scared? Like, because ego deaths are kind of a good thing in the long run. Like, maybe not in that moment, but you know,
Well, have you
after
ever
some
had
time,
one
I feel like I have. Yeah, I feel
on
like I've had a couple
mushrooms?
on acid.
I feel like those are two different experiences. Who knows?
Yeah,
Everybody
probably.
experiences different. But I feel like sometimes people think they have an ego death, but you don't. You really didn't.
I don't know. It's kind of hard to define. How do you even define an ego death? I feel like everybody's definition would be kind of different.
Exactly. But here's the thing, because I made a YouTube video like a year ago on my ego death experience, and it has a lot of views, and all the comments are this is my most viewed video, and people's comments are like, wow, you literally explained what I went through. So many people said those exact words, like, this is what I went through. Like, it's funny because a lot of those comments are people who most likely went through an ego death, and then the next morning they went YouTubing videos about it, because that's what happened to me. And they're like, oh shit, like, I'm not the only one, this happened to me.
Would you say death is different from a spiritual awakening?
Yeah, absolutely.
How? Explain.
Well, first of all, those listening, go watch my video. Because it's like, it was more recent. Even though I did it like months after the experience, I feel like I still had it really vivid in my mind and body, that I explain it a lot better. But basically, it was the most horrible thing in my life. And that's so, like, what you said a few moments ago is like, I actually understand people who would have one and not ever want to deal with them or see them again, because I did have that moment where I took a break, huge break. Even up to this day, I've just, after that experience, I definitely respected mushrooms a lot more. And the thing is that I didn't do my research before that. I didn't actually know they could take you on an ego death. But I had only heard someone say, like, my friend was like, had mentioned ego death once. But
What's the difference between that and spiritual awakening that you never said?
okay, so basically, a spiritual awakening, again, this is my thoughts, is that spiritual awakening is that you awaken to the reality of this realm that we inhabit. So you could you could be an individual who is asleep and not realize the system that we live in and the shitty world that we live in, and maybe you don't acknowledge the fact that everything in life is energy. I think that's the main thing, that
Okay.
everything in life is energy. And then one day you awaken, you're like, oh shit, like, I'm really powerful. I'm an energetic being. That's what spiritual awakening is to me.
So yeah, it sounds like spiritual awakening is more of an outer world thing, and ego death is more of a internal thing.
And the thing is that I had my spiritual awakening naturally from reading a book. And then after that book, I had more experiences in real life. And then psychedelics came into my life, and they really helped me even more so awaken my mind. And that definitely was a spiritual awakening too, because I remember my first experience. I was like, oh wow, we have like all these thoughts. Like, I was aware of my thoughts. And I had quite a few experiences with psychedelics until one day it was like an eighth of shrooms, which is considered, like, I think it's called a hero's journey, which is basically like, if you take this certain amount, you most likely will go through an ego death, which I don't think is true, because my friend and I took the same and she didn't experience it. It definitely depends on the person. And it depends on your thoughts before the trip, because yeah, if you go into the trip with fear, it's what you're going to feel. But to answer your question, to me, like, the ego death was the most horrible thing, because you lose sense of reality. Like, it felt like I died, and it felt like I left my body. Like, it felt like my soul left my body, and then I faced death, and that was really scary for me. And I faced, like, having to leave my family on this earth realm, and then I faced, it was just a lot of things. It was a lot of fear, because I couldn't see, like, if I was in a room, I didn't know that I was in a house. I didn't know that there was a floor or walls. If my friend wasn't there to guide me, then I would have walked off a balcony, kind of thing. Like,
So,
you don't
what were you physically
recognize that you're
doing?
in this body.
Did you know what you were physically doing? Like, were you just sitting down, or were you pacing around?
Well, it's like a slow transition, because the thing is that as soon as you take the psilocybin, this is really interesting to me, because as soon as you take it, let's say you take it in a form of like a smoothie, then no, let's say you just bite it. Like, let's just say you just eat it, right? Then as soon as it enters your mouth, it has already it this is my opinion. It has already decided the journey it's going to take you on.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I took it, immediately, like the second that I consumed it, I was like, oh shit,
How
this
did you
is
take it? Raw?
was it raw? Because I would usually do smoothies. I don't remember, to be honest. But basically, as soon as I consumed it, I was like, oh shit. Like, my body instantly started to feel like, oh, this is going to be a trip, but it's going to be a different trip. And I remember, like, grabbing the control immediately, playing like music that I loved. And I purposely wanted to almost forcefully put me in a mood to like dance, and just like dance and jump around. And I was forcefully trying to get into a different kind of vibe, but it wasn't working. So then I tried to be funny, and then there was a walk-in closet, and I was like, "Oh, Narnia's closet." Like, I tried to, like, almost make it like flip the script. I was like, "Take me to Narnia's closet, damn shrooms." But then I realized, I was like, "No, it's not working. Something's happening right now." So then I was like, "I need to sit down." So then I sat down, and I was like, "Oh shit." And I told my friend, I'm really sorry, but you have to guide me. She's like, what? And I was like, yep. She's like, oh shit. And then I just remember, I was like, I'm starting to lose my senses. Like, slowly, you start to lose your senses. And then um, it was just horrible. It was really horrible.
What's the thing that you keep with you to this day from that? That you actually like, it's in your mind, like, more times than not.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like it's that, well, I feel like the major lesson from that was death. Like that you cannot fear death.
You feel like you were scared to die before that?
Yeah, because I went into that trip with with fear, because what happened the day before that is that I drove my car into a ditch, and then I got into a fight with my mom, and we spoke about what if I would have died. So I
Mm.
feel like that was in my mind.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right. And then boom, that's why I feel like I was faced with that. So I feel like, oh, here's the thing. I was saying like, so what if I would have died?
Hmm.
And then that's why I was faced with it. It was like, do you really want to die? Because I remember I was like, no, I don't want to die. Like, I have so much to do in this life.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
that's deep. I love how it always pulls things out of your subconscious slash unconscious mind. Like, like it's always almost every time I've ever done any psychedelics, but it like just brings something very unique, that
Mm-hmm.
it it's like not something you probably thought about a lot, but it definitely has meaning, and you kind of look at it, and
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the, I mean, that's again, like you've definitely done more research than me on like all the technical scientific stuff. I have done some. I've listened to some podcasts and stuff. I feel like what I hear is more so like just people's experiences and opinions. I don't really know like all the science stuff, but that's the thing that like always stands out. Is like people are always, the stories that I hear and that resonate with me and what have I experienced is just like it's revealing something about yourself that you can work on.
Mm-hmm.
And of course there are other ways to experience this, but it's very profound. Like, when you just, I remember like I've taken psychedelics quite a few times, but like I'm thinking about one time I was just like, the feelings that it brought me, it just like made me like confront certain things like as I was coming down. Like it
Mm-hmm.
couldn't wait, it couldn't wait. Um I think it's a great way to get in touch with emotions that you might be suppressing,
Oh yeah,
of course if you're in
absolutely.
a mental state to handle it.
That's why you need a guide. And yeah, like I said, like one thing I do remember like clearly that came out of my mouth that trip, I was like, I have so much to do in this life. I have so much love to give. I was like, I don't want to go.
uh,
But yeah. And I feel like overall too, like to answer your question, I just felt like it felt like my soul was floating in the universe, like in the stars. And I feel like I just gained a greater like perspective on like life. I'm just like, well, life is so fragile and so beautiful that anything can happen. Because I literally thought I had died, and I was like, wow, this really sucks. Yeah, I was like, this sucks. You're gonna find your best friend dead.
what?
Yeah, I swear. But that's why after that experience, like I understand the dangers of them, and the fact that they're not for everybody, and that you need a guide. And a lot of people that I know like to mess around with psychedelics at parties, or just to do it for fun, or like, and I feel like that's a big disrespect to the plant, well, it's not a plant, the fungi, because you definitely have to set your intentions, and you need a guide, because you never know what trip it's going to take you on.
What do you categorize as a guide? What makes someone qualified?
Someone that you trust.
Mm.
They don't have to be no certified guru kind of thing. It has to be someone that you trust, because like you said, like it's going to bring up emotions that you suppressed, and you're going to spill it out. You do. We've cried on psychedelics together. Like it's a very vulnerable intimate kind of thing. And if you fear letting it out with the person you're with, the experience is going to be really shitty.
Yeah, it's probably gonna work. I'm trying to think if I've had any like that. I feel like I have. I'm just not remembering. But yeah, I can definitely see that.
Mhm.
I like how like all my I've done it under so many circumstances.
Mhm.
Um, and all the experiences have been so different. But again, it's always been a positive. Like always been a
Mhm.
positive. There's always been like some kind of lesson. Sometimes not as deep, but I think it's definitely beneficial to people, and I feel like there's something that I can't really explain, like even to the physical body. Like there's been a couple times where I feel like it's helped me even physically, like like I just feel like so refreshed.
Mhm.
And I don't really hear that as like a common thing, but for me I felt that a couple times. I remember one time I was experimenting with like microdosing. I've never really done microdosing, like really small amounts every like 8 hours or something like that, or 16 hours, whatever, instead of just like taking an eighth, like you said. And I did this alone, and I did my best, like I did, to be more intentional, like I don't want anything, like I knew it was a day that I wasn't really going to be, nothing from the outside world was really going to interfere with me, and the experience. And like I literally remember like kind of being out of body somewhat, and like
Mhm.
feeling slash seeing my mind be repaired.
Mhm.
Like it literally felt like there was like things in my brain or in my mind, whatever one, that were just needed help. Like I don't know, like sustenance or something. And like I felt it. It was like my battery being charged. And I know that
Mhm.
probably sounds so crazy, especially to someone that's never done it. Probably think it's just hallucination or something.
Mhm.
But the thing is, like that clarity and the like the after effect, for however long after, is just, it's too real. Like it's not a hallucination. It's not just like a random story. It is doing something to you. Sometimes it can't be explained.
Yeah, that doesn't sound crazy because I've heard like what you're explaining, I feel like is a mini version of what some people, I don't remember the exact like label they put on it, but it's like basically you're laying down on psychedelics and that you see aliens up above you working on you.
Oh,
Where
I've had that too.
really, I think you told me that experience too.
Yeah, I did, and that's funny because that's not what I was talking about this time.
Mhm.
Because that was with other people. That was with like 5 people.
Yeah.
And I was laying on a couch, and everyone was kind of, we were in a pretty big space, and everyone was kind of like giving each other some room. But yeah, I just like woke up in another dimension or reality, whatever you want to call it. And from what I remember, because it's been so long now, this was a long time ago. Everything was like all white, and I was laying on like a surface. I think it was a table, and like there's like beings. I call them like you. I call them aliens because
Mhm.
I help it. I feel like it paints a better picture to someone that I'm like telling a story to imagine. But I think light beings is better because like they had very little form. Like they weren't really solid people or anything, like, or creatures. There was very little shape to them, but they were definitely there. And
Mhm.
it was like 2 or 3, and like yeah, they were like, I think at one point one of them stuck out. Again, it didn't look like an arm, but that's the best thing I could use to describe it,
Mhm.
at me, and it was like giving me information. And then after however long, because you lose time, I came back to like reality. I was like, oh, shit. But that was slightly similar to what I was just talking about, but I think they are somewhat, they're like kind of parallel. Like at the end of the day, my main point is like I've had experiences where I feel something happening to me for the betterment of me. And, maybe because I can't explain it, people might just try to like brush it off, or, that's drugs, kind of like um counter it, like, oh, that's just drugs. That's your brain on
That's
drugs.
such a good point because only you know what you experienced That's
and
even if someone has taken them, they did not experience what you experienced. They
and not
cannot
only
tell,
that,
like, yeah.
think of it like this, like it's something spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
So spiritual things can't really be explained most of the time.
Shit.
And even if they can be, like, I mean, I'm trying right now, right? But I definitely don't feel like I'm doing it justice. But I'm wondering if anyone that's listening or you like can feel what I'm saying, like how it made me feel. I highly doubt it, but my point is, like, how will we ever explain spiritual things? That's like saying someone that went to church and caught the Holy Ghost, oh, you shouldn't do that
Mm-hmm.
because because it can't be understood, like they because I mean, I've never caught the Holy Ghost at a church. I've seen it, and it looks like a real experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't tell someone that did that, or whoever it was in my family. I think it was like a second cousin of mine, like, yo, like, why are you doing that? Like, that makes no sense. We don't know if there's spirits going, like, there's just so many ways I could like try to like twist that.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's what happens with psychedelics.
Mm-hmm.
Someone could just say that was a hallucination, or
Yeah,
you
you're
should,
on drugs, kind of
or
thing.
yeah, you
It's
should
like,
be careful, like
okay,
that's
but they're from the
dangerous.
earth.
Not only but that, but it's like, who where is the proof that it's truly dangerous? Like, I'm sure there's some stories out there, of course, but
Yeah, you
the
don't
stories with
die.
everything, like, it's just time. Like, time will make it more and more apparent that, like, as you said, like, there's it's becoming a thing now. Like, it's legal, I think, somewhere, right? In Oregon, is legal to what, take it, or
Oregon, it's legal to, I think, possess it, if I'm correct, or the
gotcha.
use of it, but you cannot sell it or grow it.
But that's just a step, you know what I
And
mean?
that's
Like,
just a step. I think that in 2022, which is in a couple months, there's going to be crazy changes because I've done research on this, and there's been scientists who have been working on this for decades. This is so exciting. There's going to be what's it called, counseling with psychedelics. It's basically you're laying down like a patient who has like PTSD or something, and there's someone guiding them.
yeah,
It's
I could
incredible.
see how that's, and I don't know, we don't know if the beginning part of the podcast got saved where I talked about that book, but to bring up that book, like, if psychedelics, or mushrooms more specifically, is definitely a good alternative to help people that have PTSD. Like, something I've learned from this book, I know I talk about this book a lot, but first of all, it's like 400 pages, and that's a lot of information. But second of all, it's very detailed, and it comes with our facts. I mean, unless someone comes and has different stats or something, but it's from a doctor that's worked at many different places. He's done a lot of research and studies, had a lot of different patients from all walks of life, people that have been in wars, people that have been molested, raped, abused, had addiction issues, car accidents. So many people. I think the biggest thing that this book has showed me is that way more people have like PTSD or things like that than I
Hmm.
ever imagined.
Yeah.
And it's really, I'm getting there. I'm working on it. I'm not gonna sit here and lie, but like, it really makes me want to be more conscious of like the people around me. Like, because, like, don't you think people would treat each other different, at least a little bit, if we like looked at people that way? Like, yo, you probably have been through so much shit. Like, everyone, like every single person you look at, yo, you've probably been through so much shit. Let me like,
Yeah, everybody has, like, being
yeah,
kinder.
yeah, and it's like, you have different reasons and awakenings and realizations as to like how you should be a better person, why you should be a better person, why you should treat people different. But like, yeah, just reading this book and like realizing that like 3 out of 10 people, this is not the real number, but like 3 out of 10 people have grown up in a abusive home, and 2 out of 10 people have seen their parent get beat. Like, like something out of 10 for everything. It's just like, damn, like somebody has experienced something. So I'm saying all that to say, like, if this is a real, and I believe it is, again, with very little scientific, but just my own experience, like this is a real way to help people with these kind of symptoms or issues, then like, yo, like people really should open their minds, like, and open their minds to at least supporting it, maybe even not for themselves, but just for like society in general.
Yeah, and one thing that came to mind is like what you asked earlier, what was the greatest like lesson I took out of that? Honestly, I know I already said like two, but like the greatest one, like fresh out of that experience, was realizing that nothing is real. And that's why I feel like they can be dangerous, because you've tapped into other realms and awakened to know that other things exist, like greater than this little 3D world. So some people may go into this rabbit hole of like nothing is real, so why do I need a job, why do I need to do this, why do I need to do that? And it can either change your life in a really good way, or it can go the other way. And that is why I feel like what you're saying, how it can help people with certain things, I do believe that is true, because someone can be like, how the hell can it cure depression after one trip? And I feel like it can, because it brings everything like to the light. It's almost like your higher self is viewing it, and you're like, oh, that shit isn't even real. Or you're like, this is energy, like, wow, I can change my reality, you know?
Yeah, I think something to add on what you said too, um, with the whole like it can when you're talking about like the rabbit hole scenario, I want to just give like an example or a testament, like for myself. I had that kind of realization. Now this was on LSD, it wasn't mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And this was like the fourth time I took it, I believe. This is like most likely the most powerful trip I've ever had, just because like everything in my whole world did like a 180. Um, and I did experience, like you said, it was a spiritual awakening, you could say, because yeah, I realized so much about reality, the material world, our thoughts, so on and so forth. But I experienced the rabbit hole, but I allowed it to empower me. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't really see that as common as the other way, which is people just lost on it, like nonstop, like just looking at this, like, oh look, this is bad, like this is bad, like this is going on, this is fucked. And I definitely understand that. Like I get in my phases with that, to this day. But at that time, I allowed that to empower me. I was like, yo, this world is pretty fucked up in a lot of ways. Like I've seen a really dark side of what's out here. But I also seen and felt like the light, so to speak. Um, and like I can that if everything is energy, and I'm like realizing this, like I could really just use my mind. Like if I truly know and felt that I can create anything, then like I just want to create like the best life I can.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just so, it was like, yo, it was a fucking download, dude, because like it wasn't in this like, okay, I'm gonna go and sit down and make a plan, like this is what I'm gonna do in my life. Like I just lived in the moment, but I did a lot of things I like to do. I treated people like so much better than I did prior. And like things, I saw everything unfold as the way I learned on that trip. I learned that if you put good out, good comes back. And like I started seeing the instant manifestation from stuff like that. Mind you, my whole point is like this all came from being on a psychedelic trip.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't just I watched a YouTube video, or I watched The Secret, and like I started changing. Like, nah, this was in a psychedelic trip, sitting in the park. And then that led me to like the rabbit hole. Started realizing like, oh shit, like this system is real fucked, like questioning things like religion and government. But again, I didn't let those things take me too far, um, away from like that realization that like, yo, we're powerful.
And
And
that's why they're illegal.
yeah, no, that's a perfect way to end it, because I probably would have rambled on. That's actually a
Well,
really good way to end that story.
this episode was going to be about our experience growing them, but it was more so like this topic is like we could talk about it for days,
Yeah,
you
we should
know.
probably do a part two.
Oh, growing them.
Yeah, I mean, because again, like you definitely know more of the scientific stuff, and maybe if we do a part two, that'll give me more time to research. I mean, don't get me wrong, like I know some things, but like hardcore material evidence, I can't say. I could just share my experiences and other people's too, man. Like so many people have told me, like, yo, if it wasn't for that, like who knows, like that shit, like whether it's shrooms or acid. More people say shrooms. For me, it was acid for whatever reason. Um, like it really shifted everything for me, and like without that, I really don't know, like what my life would be like, and that's meant in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. Is yeah, I feel the same way. Absolutely. I don't know where I would be. I think I would be my entire life would be different. They've
Yeah,
definitely changed. They've influenced my life in a positive way more than anything in my life. And that's a really powerful statement.
I agree.
They've changed my life forever, for my whole existence. And now I'm passionate about studying them and sharing the knowledge and the fungi itself with other people. But going back to what you said with microdosing, I feel like microdosing is really powerful. We did that for a little, and like you said, like you only took a little, but you had such an immense experience. And again, I feel like you just have to have so much intention when you're taking them. You can't just be doing it for fun, and also like the amount you take doesn't always correlate with the experience you're going to have,
For sure, I've
even
learned
though
that.
there's like a little table out there of like microdosing, how much.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
Yeah, same.
I've had totally different experiences with totally different dosages. There's just no way to tell.
I
The
could have a
people you're
little
around.
crumb and I'm like, yes, microdosing. I'm serious.
I mean, for me, again, I think it's more about like the people around, the environment, the intention for sure. I definitely have taken a few times without any real intention, and a lot of that was just ignorance. I just didn't know better. But even a couple times after, because I was just like, man, maybe this will help. Like there's been a couple times I'm like, I need like that. The same way I said that there's times I felt like it healed me and it kind of like recharged my battery in some ways. There's times I try to go back to it with that, but I don't feel like I was all the way intentional, and like not much happened for me. And like that was really a lesson. Like, yo, this is not something that you could just abuse. So I definitely have learned that lesson like in real life personally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I love this topic. I would love to hear about other people's experiences.
Hell yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, that's like infinite, like
Mm-hmm.
everybody's story is going to be have like a similar thread, I feel like, but just hearing the way they explain it is going to be different and beautiful.
Yeah. Another thing is that who you do it with is really important as well. Like if you actually have a full on trip, because everything is enhanced and you see that everything is energy, so the person you're with, you're going to feel their energy. I've heard people's crazy stories about seeing the person they're with is like a demon,
Oh my
and they're
god.
like, oh hell no. Like, yeah, I'm like, yeah, people are exposed. Yeah, for real. And also I've heard that when you do psychedelics with someone, it connects both of you to another realm. So if you ever try to cut connections or attachment to this person, it becomes even harder because you're connected on another realm.
Hmm.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I could see how that might be possible.
Yeah.
You seen
But
something when we took it together, didn't you?
right.
I don't know. You tell if you want to share. I feel like you told me I don't know if you want to share that with everybody, but you feel like you had the first. It was the first time we ever did it, right? In Cali.
Oh, that was, yeah. That experience is a whole episode. Actually, we got 2 episodes coming up, guys. No, I'm serious. That was like the most immense, powerful thing that I've experienced in my entire existence.
Really?
Yeah. The hell?
Even more than the ego,
And
the
you
fun.
were my guide. You
I
were my
was
guide, and you were my, what's it called? You were my teacher, but you were I forgot the word. But you were my teacher, and you were guiding the whole thing for me. And it was very beautiful.
it
And
was.
that for sure connected us on some other level, like if I don't know.
Yeah, I feel that. I agree 1,000%.
Our souls merged, guys. I'm serious. Our souls merged. And that's how I'll leave this episode. The next couple ones can be, maybe we'll share that story, I'm not sure. And then the other one is how our experience growing them.
Okay, cool. All
Yeah.
right.
Where can people find you and connect with you?
Instagram, just Instagram. Let's just say Instagram for now. TOMSWANKSS, Tom Swanks. Where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube and you can go watch the other videos. I have a few on there.
Put
And
them
I
in the
plan on
podcast
sharing more.
description.
Everything will be on the description. Yeah. Thank you for your time and energy. God bless.
God bless. Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Bye.
All right. Peace.